The Firebird was extremely fast. Silver-winged flying ant dodged the Firebird's charge with silver wing flash, but the blood-colored avatar didn't have the same speed. It was already too late to summon the silver-winged flying ant to turn it into wings. Since he couldn't dodge, Zhou Wen struck out with Ashen Palm. However, when the palm made contact with the Firebird, it felt like he had struck air. There was no corporeal entity to direct his force, and by then, the Firebird had already charged into the blood-colored avatar's body. Bang! The next second, the blood-colored avatar exploded like fireworks, turning the screen black. Unwilling to accept this, Zhou Wen dripped his blood and revived the blood-colored avatar. He charged straight for Fire God platform and before long arrived there. This time, he was prepared. He first turned silver-winged flying ant into its companion form. 4 translucent silver wings appeared behind the blood-colored avatar. Indeed, the Firebird flew out from the top of the Fire God platform once more. Zhou Wen used the flight obtained from silver wings to face off with the Firebird, and, although he couldn't shake it off, the Firebird was unable to catch up to him. Ignoring the Firebird, Zhou Wen controlled the blood-colored avatar to fly towards the Fire God platform. He wanted to see what was on top of it. The platform was squarish in shape like a gigantic chimney. It was 1,000 feet tall, and although he wanted to fly to its peak, his silver wings only allowed him to fly a dozen meters or so. He wasn't able to reach higher altitudes. The life providence as king of low altitudes allows the silver-winged flying ant to be extremely agile at low altitudes, but it can't fly too high. This is a damning weakness. Zhou Wen landed on the stone steps of the Fire God platform, and seeing the Firebird about to chase up to him, he summoned the silver-winged flying ant and shot magical needle at it. The Firebird didn't dodge and allowed it to rush straight at it. Bang! Magical needle was useful as it exploded the Firebird, however, the system didn't indicate that he had killed a dimensional creature. Zhou Wen was delighted. Just as he was about to rush up to the Fire God platform, he saw another flame soar into the sky from the top of the platform. This time 2 Firebirds swooped down. Zhou Wen continued rushing up the staircase, and before long, the 2 Firebirds came to him. The blood-colored avatar gained the silver wings and faced off with the 2 Firebirds again. After taking painstaking efforts, he finally slew the 2 Firebirds. But this time, 4 Firebirds flew out. Zhou Wen didn't dare kill them. All he could do was try his best to escape the Firebird's pursuit and head to the top of the Fire God platform as quickly as he could. Unfortunately, Zhou Wen was wrong. Even if he didn't kill the Firebirds, the top of the Fire God platform sent out 8 Firebirds when he reached a certain height. Zhou Wen was already doing the best he could, but he wasn't the Firebird's match. Soon, the blood-colored avatar had a Firebird charge into his body and exploded to its death. However, from where it stood, he could already see some of the Fire God platform's peak. There was a stone monument erected on it, but Zhou Wen was only able to see the tip and vaguely made out the word Imperial. The game screen went black, but he didn't immediately revive again. Instead, he recalled his past experiences. After killing the Firebird, there wasn't any indication of me killing dimensional creatures. This means that they aren't dimensional creatures. If they aren't, it means they are a type of primordial energy skill. But why didn't the dimensional creature at the top of Fire God platform release large numbers of Firebirds at the very beginning, but instead slowly double them up? Zhou Wen then thought of something. In real life, the ancient city is clearly Guide Ancient City, but the game dungeon's name is Ancient Imperial City. That Fire God platform has a stone monument with the word Imperial on it. Could it be related? Unable to figure things out immediately, Zhou Wen decided to take a rest and calm his mind. Pouring himself a cup of blood-replenishing tea, he sipped at it as he checked if there was any new income from the thread he had posted on the Dimensional Forum. He was left disappointed as the clicks remained at 2. However, he had received a private message on the forum. Zhou Wen saw that the message was posted by a user named Wang's Man. He clicked it and gave it a look. "Dear sir, might I discuss small Buddha temple with you?" "Discuss." Zhou Wen replied. Wang Fei always had the forum open on her phone. Although she hadn't received a reply after waiting for quite some time, she had continued waiting patiently. The discovery of small Buddha temple was too astonishing. After using Poison's method, the military had finally rushed into the compound of small Buddha temple and discovered the stone monument with the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra. This discovery astounded Wang Fei and the military top brass. Such a stone monument had been discovered in other mysterious dimensional zones in the past. People had mastered the primordial energy art on the stone monument and earned a mysterious companion beast. However, Wang Fei and the military top brass knew very well that although the primordial energy art was potent, it wasn't something that anyone could cultivate. One needed the corresponding special physiques to cultivate the corresponding primordial energy arts. Although they saw the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra, no one dared to cultivate it. A volunteer attempted to memorize the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra on the stone monument, but a few words were enough for him to clasp his head and cry out in pain. He then died with blood gushing out of his 7 orifices. A general had personally visited the stone monument before ordering all soldiers to leave small Buddha temple. Furthermore, all news regarding small Buddha temple was made top secret. Wang Fei contacted Poison on the general's orders. "Have you mastered small perfection of Wisdom Sutra?" Wang Fei hurriedly asked. "What has that got to do with you?" "I'm willing to pay large sums of money to buy information from you." Sensing the other party's tone to be somewhat impatient, Wang Fei got straight to the point and indicated her motives. What information? Tell me. Do you know what special physiques are needed to cultivate in the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra? Wang Fei hurriedly replied. Zhou Wen was slightly taken aback. He had no idea what physiques were needed. However, on second thought, he immediately came to a realization. I was wondering why the three-faced Buddha called me his child. I thought it had to do with my cultivating of the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra, but from the looks of it, it's not that simple. But I don't seem to possess any special physique. If small perfection of Wisdom Sutra requires one to cultivate, how did I succeed? With this in mind, Zhou Wen's eyes suddenly lit up. Could it be the lost Immortal Sutra? He recalled that his brain felt extreme discomfort when he began reading the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra. After the lost Immortal Sutra took effect, he was able to finish reading the former in its entirety and mastered it. From the looks of it, it's most likely lost Immortal Sutra. Wang Fei waited for quite a while, but there was no reply. She couldn't help but feel a little uneasy, but it wasn't appropriate for her to send another message to rush the person. All she could do was continue waiting, with every second feeling like an eternity. Article 77 of 1597. Chapter 77 Matriculation Test. Wang Fei didn't receive a response after waiting all day. Her message was like a rock sinking into the ocean. Finally, she couldn't help but send another message, but once again, she didn't receive a reply. Unbeknownst to her, Zhou Wen had already closed the forum and was gaming away. He didn't know what physiques were needed to cultivate the small perfection of Wisdom Sutra, so he naturally wasn't able to answer her. However, he didn't wish to let the other person know that he was clueless. He decided to not answer, for there was a chance he could learn more from the other party in the future. But this only served to torture Wang Fei. This was because the dimensional forum didn't have any indication of online status, nor was there any way of checking. Therefore, she didn't know if Zhou Wen was online or not. All she could do was continue waiting. Wang Fei immediately picked up her phone when it suddenly sounded and she saw the number flash up. Little Fei, did you figure out Poison's identity? A man's voice sounded over the phone. Sorry, General Shen. There was no response from him. I'm also temporarily unable to figure out his identity, Wang Fei said after a pause. General Shen, can we figure out his geographical location through the forum? The dimensional forum is under the Zhang family. You know what they are like. Unless Congress passes it through a vote, there's no way we can get the information from them. It's impossible. The Zhangs won't even entertain me, General Shen thought for a moment before continuing. Since Poison knows about Buddha City and small Buddha Temple, as well as the secret of the stone steps, it means he must have been there. This place is a recently discovered dimensional zone, so not many people have been there. Apart from our military personnel, there are only the students and teachers of Sunset College. Investigate it from this angle. You have to find Poison no matter what. Yes. Wang Fei hung up and thought about how she could begin. Quite a number of students and teachers had entered Buddha City, so it wasn't an easy task to find out who they all were. Early in the morning, Zhou Wen and Li Xuan reported for class. Sunset College used an education system that followed half-restricted military practices. It was different from the typical university. Here, there was no distinction between electives and compulsory classes. They only needed to attend the lessons of one teacher. They could attend the classes of other teachers based on their own interests. Li Xuan and Zhou Wen happened to be assigned to Wang Fei's class, and she was in a rather unhappy mood today. After entering the class, she saw all the freshmen looking languid. She pursed her lips before curling the ends of her mouth slightly. Students, from today, I'll be your counselor. Let me introduce myself. My name is Wang Fei. Wang Fei wrote her name on the board. When the students realized that she was in her late 20s, exuding a mature lady's sexiness by wearing a gray professional blazer matched with stockings, something that the female students were unable to compare with, some of the bolder students cheered. Li Xuan was clearly one of the bolder ones. He called out, Miss Wang, are you taken? If you aren't, you can consider me. Upon hearing Li Xuan's words, many students laughed out. Many students also made catcalls. Wang Fei seemed used to such situations and thought nothing of it. She shot Li Xuan a look and said, of course. But you have to first be able to graduate while under me. Alright, this is Sunset College. The word sunset is a warning to us that time is precious. Our school's purpose is to cherish time. Now, I'll be assigning you your first matriculation homework. It will also be your first test. Kill a demonized general within 10 days. Each team is only allowed a maximum of 4 people. The kill has to be done within 90 seconds. If you fail to complete the test, you will be expelled from school. You can then seek out other opportunities for yourself. The school will also arrange for you to apply to other ordinary schools. The noisy classroom instantly fell silent. Students who were admitted into Sunset College weren't to be trifled with. Before arriving on campus, many of them had gained an understanding of Sunset College via various channels. To have a test on the first day of classes was a tradition of Sunset College. It wasn't much of a surprise. However, to slay a demonized general within 90 seconds in a group of 4, it was quite demanding. Sunset College had many dimensional zones, so the typical matriculation test was to kill a certain number of mortal dimensional creatures, but a demonized general was a legendary dimensional creature. Although the students here were all elites, most of them were at the mortal stage. Killing a legendary dimensional creature through the combined forces of 4 students at the mortal stage wasn't simple. Furthermore, demonized generals didn't appear alone. They would have plenty of mortal stage demonized soldiers around them, increasing the difficulty. Most students probably were incapable of killing one in 90 seconds as a group of 4. Miss Wang, we just matriculated and have learned nothing. Isn't it too demanding for us to kill a demonized general? A student raised his doubts. Didn't I give you 10 days to learn? As long as you are willing to put in the effort, 10 days is sufficient. If you don't have the will, 100 days would be useless. This is Sunset College. It doesn't have that much time for you to waste. Kill a demonized general in 10 days or study at another university. Your fates are in your hands. Alright, this will be the end of the administration matters before class starts. You can officially begin attending lessons. As for the classes you would like to attend, it's up to you to decide. The timetable has the various counselors' lesson timings. You can choose the subjects you would like to learn more about. Wang Fei handed out passes before she left, leaving the room filled with dumbfounded students. College life seems to be a little more interesting than I expected. Killing a demonized general in 90 seconds in a group of 4 probably isn't easily accomplished, much less ordinary students, Li Xuan whispered to Zhou Wen. The other students either lamented or grumbled. Their test was the hardest among all the matriculation tests in previous years. What kind of dimensional creature is the demonized general? Zhou Wen held the pass he had received and studied it. On it were the words, Tiger Cage Pass. Li Xuan said, Tiger Cage Pass is a dimensional zone east of campus. In ancient times, it was called Siwi Pass. After it became a dimensional zone, large numbers of demonized general and demonized soldiers appeared. Among dimensional creatures of the same level, demonized generals and demonized soldiers are middle to upper tier. Some demonized generals even reach the level of pinnacle legendary. They are very difficult to deal with. Such a matriculation test is really difficult for newly matriculated students. Let's visit Tiger Cage Pass then, Zhou Wen said with piqued interest. His other dungeons had reached a bottleneck. He was unable to reach the top of Fire God platform and he couldn't break into Ant City. There wasn't much to be discovered in underground Buddha City, so it would be a good development to have a new dungeon. Article 78 of 1597. Chapter 78 Demonized General. Ms. Wang, you shouldn't have used the test meant for the special admission students of the previous 2 years on ordinary students, right? Lu Zengyan told Wang Fei inside the school office. These imps are filled with arrogance. If they aren't taught a lesson, it might not be easy teaching them in the future. Mr. Lu, rest assured. I know what I'm doing, Wang Fei said with great confidence. Wang Fei naturally wouldn't expel her students. She had prepared a strategy for killing the demonized general. As long as these students worked hard to look up information on it, they would discover the strategy she had specially written. By studying the strategy completely, it wasn't difficult to slay the demonized general within 10 days. The average student did research in school, but Zhou Wen was clearly an exception. Without doing any research, he and Li Xuan headed straight for the Tiger Cage Pass dimensional zone. Tiger Cage Pass was similarly underground. After receiving a temporary pass from the school, Zhou Wen and Li Xuan were able to enter it. The pass had to be returned in 10 days, so it wouldn't be easy for them to enter Tiger Cage Pass again after that time. It wasn't that the school wasn't willing to open Tiger Cage Pass to everyone, but it had too few resources available for all. Real life wasn't a game where dimensional creatures would keep respawning after being killed. One had to wait for new dimensional creatures to come out of the dimensional rift, and this process was much slower than in-game respawning. Therefore, dimensional zones like Tiger Cage Pass that were specially prepared for students were typically opened up to them for fixed periods of time to ensure that there would be sufficient dimensional creatures in it. Outside Tiger Cage Pass, Zhou Wen discovered the familiar palm symbol, but it was a symbol with a tiger-headed gate. Before entering, he used his mysterious phone to snap a picture of the palm symbol and indeed, he successfully downloaded the Tiger Cage Pass game dungeon. Since he was here, he entered with Li Xuan to take a look. Several students from the same class had come as well. They too were here to take a look at Tiger Cage Pass's situation. In the underground ancient battlefield, demonized soldiers were wandering in groups. They wore ragged clothes and had blood-red eyes. Their dark skin suffused a metallic luster. There were also different types of demonized soldiers. Most of them carried lances while others held knives and shields. A few of them had bows and arrows. Most of the students were geniuses of their various high schools, so dealing with the typical demonized soldier wasn't difficult. However, there were no signs of demonized generals anywhere in the vicinity. Shall we head in and find a demonized general so that we can complete the test today? Li Xuan asked with a smile. Another day perhaps. It's best we head back and study the information regarding Tiger Cage Pass. Zhou Wen didn't wish to underestimate any dimensional zone. It was equivalent to dancing on the edge of a blade. Although he now had the capability of killing legendaries, legendary creatures were varied in their abilities. No one could guarantee that nothing would go wrong. You're just too careful. Without strength, we can just be over and done with by storming in, Li Xuan said with a laugh. Zhou Wen ignored him and headed out. After returning to his dorm, he first launched the school's official page and looked up the information regarding Tiger Cage Pass. Wang Fei had deliberately stuck to the strategy, so Zhou Wen naturally found it at a glance. When he loaded it, there was a detailed introduction to the strategy and how it could be used. As long as one cooperated well with one another, killing a legendary demonized general wasn't difficult. However, it had pointed out something: the demonized generals mentioned in the strategy were typical demonized generals. If one were to encounter a demonized general with engraving on their helmets, one was to immediately stay away from them. After studying the information available, Zhou Wen launched the game dungeon and entered Tiger Cage Pass. The game's graphics were nearly identical to Tiger Cage Pass, other than the fact that it was cartoonish. It didn't look as bloody and terrifying. With Zhou Wen's strength, killing ordinary demonized soldiers was easy. Even small groups of them didn't pose any threat. He stormed his way and headed in the direction of Tiger Cage Pass's gate. The silver-winged flying ant slew the ordinary demonized soldiers as if it was dicing vegetables. This went on for kilometers until he suddenly saw a demonized general rushing over on a demon horse. The demon horse was entirely red in color. It looked like a cloud of flames and its speed was astonishing. It arrived in front of the silver-winged flying ant almost in the blink of an eye. The demonized general on the horse was abnormally stocky. It wore black armor and a helmet, and the weapon in its hand looked extremely odd. It looked like a spear, but the two sides of the spear tip had two crescent blades. It was more than 3 meters long and looked a little like the trident of the mythical Poseidon. The raven black spear suffused a red glow, and although it was drawn in a cartoon style, it still gave one the feeling of ferocity and dominance. Zhou Wen's gaze swept across its helmet and saw a circular groove. Engraved in it was the word paper. Boom. The demonized general raised its spear and thrust it at the silver-winged flying ant. Burning flames spewed out of the spear tip, making the strange spear appear like a flaming worm that swept towards the ant at blistering speed. Clearly, it was a primordial energy skill. Under Zhou Wen's control, the silver-winged flying ant used Silver Wing Flash to dodge the demonized general's thrust. At the same time, it moved its stinger and shot out magical needle, aiming right at the demonized general's eyes. Roar. The demonized general let out a roar as its body produced fiery ripples that resembled lotus flower petals. It had surprisingly withstood magical needle as it threw the strange burning spear right at the silver-winged flying ant in midair. Zhou Wen hurriedly made the silver-winged flying ant fly higher, hoping to use the distance of height to prevent the attack from hitting. The silver-winged flying ant flew to a height of more than 10 meters, a height that Zhou Wen imagined the strange spear wouldn't be able to reach. But to his surprise, the demon horse the demonized general was riding leapt up and jumped more than 10 meters into the sky, instantly closing the distance between it and the ant. The strange spear in the demonized general's hand again swept at it like a fiery worm. The silver-winged flying ant lived up to its name as king of low altitudes. As it flapped its forewings, it dodged the attack like a silver bolt of lightning. However, a shocking scene happened the next second. The demonized general aimed one hand at the silver-winged flying ant in midair and sucked at it. As though space was collapsing towards its palm, the ant, which was at least 2 meters away, was pulled towards the demonized general. No matter how hard it flapped its forewings, it was unable to escape the suction. Crack. The strange spear cleaved down, immediately lopping off the motionless silver-winged flying ant's head. Zhou Wen turned around and retreated, but the blood-colored avatar did not have enough strength to fend off a pinnacle legendary creature. Zhou Wen had ultimately retreated too late. Without even pursuing him, the demonized general sat on the demon horse's back and threw the strange spear over. The flaming worm tore through the sky, and without being able to dodge in time, the blood-colored avatar was pinned to the sandy ground in the battlefield. The screen went black. Article 79 of 1597. How terrifying. Zhou Wen didn't feel depressed. Instead, his eyes lit up as he felt pumped with excitement. The stats of the silver-winged flying ant were already considered top-notch among legendaries. Yet, it had been butchered by the demonized general. Such a powerful existence made Zhou Wen eager to obtain it. Be it the demonized general companion beast or the demonized general's primordial energy skill, they were both of extreme value. It was especially so for the skill that could pull the silver-winged flying ant over. It was practically godlike. Without any hesitation, he dripped his blood to revive the blood-colored avatar. He then chose to head for Tiger Cage Pass immediately. The typical demonized soldiers held little meaning to him. He stormed all the way in, leaving a wake of destruction behind him. Soon, he encountered the demonized general who came riding on a horse. However, this demonized general was somewhat different from the one he had previously encountered. Although it wore the same black armor and helmet, there wasn't any engraving on its helmet. Furthermore, it was riding a black horse and it was slightly shorter. The weapon it wielded was an ordinary spear. Upon exchanging blows, Zhou Wen realized that this was the ordinary demonized general as described in the school's strategy. It was completely different from the word engraved demonized general he had seen. Although an ordinary demonized general was rather strong, it wasn't the silver-winged flying ant's match. After about 10 minutes of battle, it was slain and had dropped a primordial energy crystal. A 15-valued primordial energy crystal didn't help Zhou Wen break through his limits. Apart from his constitution at 11, his other stats peaked at 10. He was unable to exceed the limit. Zhou Wen continued controlling the blood-colored avatar as he stormed towards Tiger Cage Pass. The nearer he was to it, the more demonized soldiers there were. He did encounter 2 demonized generals, but they dropped nothing of note. When the city gates of Tiger Cage Pass were in sight, Zhou Wen wanted to continue charging forward when he heard the twang of a bowstring. An arrow shot out from Tiger Cage Pass like a bolt of lightning, instantly killing the blood-colored avatar. What the hell? Zhou Wen was able to hear the bowstring's twang thanks to the truth listener earring, but he hadn't managed to see who had shot the arrow, nor was he able to dodge it in time. Such an outcome clearly didn't satisfy him. He dripped his blood and entered the game again, but this time, he didn't enter Tiger Cage Pass but first entered Ant Nest, Ancient Imperial City, and Underground Buddha City. After killing the silver-winged flying ant, skeleton general and mutated Buddha Heart Lotus once, he headed for Tiger Cage Pass. He failed to encounter a word-engraved demonized general again and only encountered 2 ordinary ones. After killing them, he was killed on the spot by the arrow as he tried to approach Tiger Cage Pass. He still failed to identify who had killed the blood-colored avatar. Without immediately entering the game, Zhou Wen headed online to check the school's online database and studied in detail the information regarding Tiger Cage Pass. There was plenty of information, but little regarding the word-engraved demonized general. It was only mentioned that they were occasionally encountered outside Tiger Cage Pass and were very rare, with one not even appearing for a month or 2. Furthermore, there were many bigwigs who had their sights on word-engraved demonized generals. It was said that their primordial energy skills were very valuable, but Zhou Wen didn't manage to find any information regarding that. As for what was inside Tiger Cage Pass, an epic stage expert had once rushed in but ended up escaping with grievous injuries. To date, humanity hadn't yet cleared the Tiger Cage Pass dimensional zone. The area 2,500 meters outside Tiger Cage Pass was considered a forbidden area. Typical students and teachers were forbidden from entry, and they had only themselves to blame if an accident were to occur there. Without finding the word-engraved demonized general's detailed information, Zhou Wen tried again. He dripped his blood again to revive himself in the bid of encountering one outside Tiger Cage Pass. However, before heading to Tiger Cage Pass each time, he would kill the silver-winged flying ant, skeleton general, and mutated Buddha Heart Lotus. A legendary companion egg did drop and ordinary companion eggs dropped as well. They were all given as food to the silver-winged flying ant and truth listener. Truth listener also needed food, but it was picky. It only ate companion eggs and had no interest in incubated companion beasts. This made it different from the silver-winged flying ant. Ding. For the next few days, Zhou Wen continued grinding crazily. After he slew a mutated Buddha Heart Lotus once more, a mutated Buddha Heart Lotus crystal dropped a primordial energy skill crystal. This was even rarer than a mutated Buddha Heart Lotus companion egg. He had already had 3 of them drop, but the mutated Buddha Heart Lotus's primordial energy skill crystal only had 1 drop. I already have blood meditation. I hope it isn't the same one this time. Zhou Wen carefully looked at the primordial energy skill crystals. Stats. Mutated Buddha Heart Lotus, Lotus Flower Buddha Body, rank 9. Zhou Wen's eyes lit up as he didn't hesitate to let the blood-colored avatar fuse with it. Lotus Flower Buddha Body was the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus's protective primordial energy skill, and furthermore, it was rank 9. Zhou Wen couldn't ask for more. Thankfully, the Buddha-type primordial energy skill was relatively mild. Although it was at the legendary stage, it didn't excessively burden Zhou Wen's body. It allowed him to successfully obtain the rank 9 Lotus Flower Buddha Body. When Zhou Wen attempted to circulate it, faint blood patterns immediately suffused his skin. They covered his entire body with flower petals as though a Buddha's aspect was hidden within. Lotus Flower Buddha Body expended 1 primordial energy point every second, therefore, only allowing him to use it for 10 seconds. This was under the condition that he didn't use any other primordial energy skills. This primordial energy skill is good in every way, but its expenditure is just too high, Zhou Wen thought with an insatiable desire. He entered the game to try his newly mastered skill and realized that he had basically achieved invulnerability against the attacks of demonized soldiers at the same mortal stage. His defensive strength was indeed pretty good. It could also defend the attacks of ordinary demonized generals if they didn't use primordial energy skills. If they were to use one, the Lotus Flower Buddha Body wasn't able to defend against it, but it still prevented him from being killed instantly. Of course, this was under the condition that the ordinary demonized generals could hit the blood-colored avatar. In fact, with the silver wings formed by the silver-winged flying ant, ordinary demonized generals were incapable of touching the blood-colored avatar. As for the arrow that shot out from Tiger Cage Pass, it was still able to penetrate his body. Lotus Flower Buddha Body's defensive powers were like papier-mâché that didn't show any obvious effects. Even Silver Wing Flash didn't help him in dodging it. The one shooting the arrow from Tiger Cage Pass is likely an epic dimensional creature. Zhou Wen no longer dared to approach Tiger Cage Pass and only sought demonized generals in the periphery. He grinded Tiger Cage Pass countless times, and one time he encountered a red horse dash towards him shortly after he arrived near Tiger Cage Pass. The demonized general riding on it was stocky and tall. Its strange spear, resembling Poseidon's trident, was eye-catching. There was a word engraved on its helmet, making it the word engraved demonized general, which Zhou Wen had been trying hard to find. However, upon careful inspection, he was stunned. This was because the word engraved was different from the one he had previously seen. Article 80 of 1597. The last time Zhou Wen saw the demonized general, it had the word paper engraved on the helmet. This time, it wasn't paper but blade. It was paper and now it's blade. Don't tell me the next one is rock. Although he didn't know why they differed, he still followed his plans. He fused the mutated skeleton ant, silver-winged flying ant, and truth listener into the blood-colored avatar and prepared for a full-power skirmish. Although the demonized general was strong, the silver-winged flying ant wasn't weak, especially when it came to speed. It was definitely not weaker than any legendary dimensional creature. The demonized general's attack was identical to the one he previously encountered. The strange spear in its hand swept over with blazing flames, but Zhou Wen managed to dodge it by flying. He didn't rejoice when he dodged the strange spear's attack. He continued staring intently at the demonized general's left hand. Indeed, after the spear missed, the demonized general raised its left hand just as Zhou Wen had expected. However, to his surprise, the demonized general didn't suck the blood-colored avatar over. Instead, it transformed its palm into a blade and waved it at it. The faint red blade aura tore out like a thin thread, instantly cleaving the blood-colored avatar's waist, an attack that even the silver wings were unable to dodge. The blade aura flashed past the blood-colored avatar's waist, slicing it into two. It then plummeted from the sky and the screen turned black. Zhou Wen was confused when he saw the black screen. The left-hand technique of paper is suction, while blade has a blade aura that's as fast as lightning. If there's rock, would it be a powerful punch that strikes from afar? He didn't immediately revive the blood-colored avatar to try again. He carefully considered the battle and quickly realized that he was unlikely to defeat the paper-demonized general with only the silver-winged flying ant. However, he had a chance of defeating the blade-demonized general. The suction force of the paper-demonized general's palm was something the silver-winged flying ant couldn't avoid. However, the extremely fast blade aura of the blade-demonized general could be avoided if silver-winged flying ant was used properly. This also meant that Zhou Wen had the chance of killing a blade-demonized general. This was if the silver-winged flying ant fought alone. If it fused with the blood-colored avatar as a companion form, there was zero chance. This was because, in its companion form, the silver-winged flying ant was unable to use its talent skills. And since Zhou Wen hadn't had the silver-winged flying ant primordial energy skill drop, he wasn't able to use such flight-capable skills. Therefore, he ended up losing his advantage after fusion. Heavens, show your grace on me. Let me encounter a blade-demonized general again. Zhou Wen entered the dungeon once more, but luck was clearly not on his side. After repeatedly grinding, he didn't encounter any word-engraved demonized general outside Tiger Cage Pass. He spent several days in his dorm grinding without attending class. Li Xuan visited him a few times, hoping to invite him to complete the test at Tiger Cage Pass, but Zhou Wen would decline with some excuse. Wang Fei constantly monitored her students in secret and discovered that most students had diligently done their research and formed teams to attempt slaying the demonized general at Tiger Cage Pass. Li Xuan and Zhou Wen were the only ones in class who didn't do a thing. Excluding their first visit to Tiger Cage Pass, there had been no sight of them again. And no. I can ignore Li Xuan, but what's Zhou Wen doing? Why didn't he head to Tiger Cage Pass to complete the mission? Wang Fei was rather curious about Zhou Wen. She had a good relationship with Ouyang Lan and knew how proud and doting she was as a mother. Even a woman like Ouyang Lan had given Zhou Wen an extremely high appraisal and had even given the rights that should have been in Jing's to Zhou Wen. This had piqued Wang Fei's curiosity. Zhou Wen had showcased impressive potential back in his participation in the slaying of the mutated Buddha Heart Lotus, so this deepened her curiosity. She wouldn't have thought much about it if Zhou Wen had completed the mission at Tiger Cage Pass without any fuss, but there was nothing from him for several days. This just intrigued her even more. Wang Fei clearly wasn't a patient person. Since she was curious, she decided to visit Zhou Wen at his dorm to see what he was doing. And in a room in a particular part of Luang City, Liz excitedly came to Qiao Sichuan with an arrest warrant. Minister Qiao, the arrest warrant has been granted. Shall we take immediate action? Qiao Sichuan nodded slightly. Take some men to Sunset College. However, don't use the arrest warrant. Get the school to bring Zhou Wen over under the guise of getting him to aid in investigations. If he's cooperative, bring him back. If not, you'll have to use the warrant. Try not to garner the notice of too many people when you do it, especially the Yin family. Minister, rest assured. I know what needs to be done. I'll definitely bring Zhou Wen back, Liz said confidently. Go then. Come back quickly. We don't have much time. We have to get what we need to know before the Yin family sends someone, so it has to be fast, Qiao Sichuan exhorted once more. Liz obeyed the order and took men to Sunset College. Then, in the name of needing Zhou Wen to aid in investigations, she met the school's managing vice-chancellor. If they were ordinary police, they probably wouldn't be able to meet the managing vice-chancellor. However, being in the Special Inspector Bureau allowed Liz a meeting. In the League, the Special Inspector Bureau was feared and hated by everyone. Although the vice-chancellor didn't wish to involve himself with Liz and company, he had no choice but to talk to them. The entire League knew of many high-ranking officials that had their reputations ruined after entering the Special Inspector Bureau. If one was targeted by this bureau, severe loss or even death was certain. Chancellor, rest assured. We just wish to invite a few witnesses to provide us with some information. It won't take too much of these students' time, Liz said with a smile. There was a name list on the managing vice chancellor's desk, one with a total of 6 names. They were all Sunset College students, but 5 of them were just a ruse. Zhou Wen was the person she really wanted. All right then. The managing vice chancellor didn't wish to offend the special inspector bureau because of such trivialities, so he got his secretary to summon the students on the list. Zhou Wen was gaming in his dorm when he received the notice to head to the school's administrative building. He had no idea why the chancellor was summoning him. Knocking on the door and entering the office, he instantly saw Liz, who was sitting there drinking tea. He immediately knew that things weren't good, but he knew that escape was futile. All he could do was pretend to not recognize her and walk in calmly. Article 81 of 1597.